So this is Rule 1.13, the organization as a client. So we're going to be going over the 1.13, having an organization as a client, and we're going to take a look at the rule. This is one of the longest rules, but on this presentation, we're going to focus only in the basics. So a lawyer employed or retained by an organization represents the organization acting through its duly authorized constituents. This is a rule that could be complex, so we're gonna focus on the foundations of it. So say, for example, you work for a corporation, which could be an LLC, could be a nonprofit, a hospital, a university, a small church, a big church, big corporations such as Nike, Walmart. So think about all of those big companies out there. There is a lot of constituents in those, which could be executive directors, could be managers, could be entry-level employees that work, say, as cashiers or interns. So there is different interests that you see in those companies. Also, when we're talking about government companies, you can also, or nonprofits, you can also think about the executive board, volunteers that make decisions. So there is a variety of interest when it comes to those institutions. So when we talk about the question, who is the client when you work for those organizations? And there could be potential conflicts of interest. So, for instance, when one of the constituents of an organizational client talks or communicates with the organization's lawyer in that person's organizational capacity, the communication is then protected by Rule 1.6. And when we talk about Rule 1.6, we are referring to the confidentiality of information. So that rule, just to give you a refresher, refers to the client-lawyer relationship when the lawyer shouldn't reveal any kind of information related to the client or the representation of the client unless the client gives informed consent, very specific consent about what could be communicated and why. So, as a rule of thumb, a lawyer shouldn't disclose any information with anybody unless there is a business need to know, but that could be in question. So the rule of thumb is to not disclose anything with anybody. And the other important element is when a lawyer works for a government agency. This can be a little tricky, especially for entities of the government that have clients that may be working with the government as well. For instance, if there is a municipality or a city government that is contracting any sort of a construction company, and one of the heads of the construction company that may be signing a contract with the government also works with the government, the lawyer has authority, more authority than a lawyer that works for a private company, to investigate, to research, and to question such an conduct so that the government can have as much transparency as possible because, as you know, governments work with taxpayers' money. So it is very important to assure that there is no conflict of interest in this matter. So if you are a lawyer and work for the government, you have more authority to investigate matters than if you work for a private firm or a nonprofit. It is also important to mention that there is the possibility of dual representation.
So the rule recognizes that a attorney or a lawyer for an organization can also be a principal officer or a major shareholder. So working as a lawyer for an organization doesn't stop you or doesn't prevent you in, you know, to still work, be a principal officer or still be a major shareholder.